back in my shop. I'm working on the Honda ST1100, and I'm going to do a valve clearance check and adjustment, and it's pretty involved. I went through the book. There's one guy I seen on there that shows this one side over here. The book tells you to start on the right hand side of the bike and explains it all, and he did his, and then he kind of did, I think, did most of it on this side, then went over there where the book kind of tells you to go from one cylinder to the other, then back over here, I believe. But I'm going to have to read some more in the book. But before I get to that, I wanted to talk about something down here on the bike. In the book, they say on the right hand side, number 1 cylinder is here, number 2 is in the front on the left, the rear on the right is 3, and across the rear one over there is 4. So I took a paint pen and I painted them. I don't believe you could get them mixed up because this one is longer than this one, so it probably wouldn't, this one wouldn't reach, but you want to make sure. The best thing to do is take a paint pen and do like I did, mark them. So those will come off the first thing. Always mark your stuff so you know where you're at. And this cover, on a lot of bikes I've seen on YouTube and that, these are always bad looking. This one, it's blistered up. It's aluminum, but it just like corrosion got on it or something. I don't understand it. The other side I took off was just as bad. And there's 4 bolts in it, but there's 2 up here, Allen bolts, that this cover goes up around here where the cover's over the timing change. This can come off if you just take these 4 off, but I like to take this off so then I can bump it on the sides to get this broke loose. So I'm going to take this cover off first. Now this is aluminum, all this top. This is plastic. And I thought that this plastic I could buff up. It had a black mark up here, but here it's just the paint was scraped off. And what I did was I took the other cover off and I scraped it a little bit on where it's blistered, and I can see it's some paint raised up. Somebody has painted that. The actual original was probably brushed aluminum or shined up or whatever. I imagine they might have painted it, I don't know, but somebody else put a spray on it and it didn't help the situation. They didn't take care of this. Here, that little cover comes right off and it's pretty grubby in there. And the gasket under here that goes the whole way around, you can see it right here, and it's real hard. It's like, it's not good rubber. It's been on there a long time. So I ordered 2 new gaskets. They're coming. Let me get these bolts out. And they want all the spark plugs out when you go to do the timing so you can turn the motor off, or turn the motor, you know, to line it up on the marks. I really research everything. I read the book, I look online, you know, somebody might say, well, this is what they come up with. And then, you know, use all that information to do it the way I want to do it. I should have probably cracked these loose just a little bit at a time on them. But this ain't going to warp. It's, you know, room temperature. Now that cover should come right off of there. I have a rubber hammer. Just a little bit of bumping. It'll come off. And this is what I want to show and talk about in this. Not so much setting the valves, which I'm going to do. But what they have done is they have put shellac on here. That old shellac. The stuff that's really sticky. I don't hardly know anybody that uses that, because when you ever take that back off again, you have a hell of a time getting this clean. And it's on this gasket. New gasket's coming, so I don't care about this one. And what I did was I sit down first and I started cleaning this all on the other side. There, that's the old gasket. And you can see in here this kind of light brown stuff. That's that shellac. He just put it on the one side. And I guess to seal it, but it sure made a mess. You can see up here, it must have been leaking just a little wee bit because all of that dirt from oil. And you can see that the gasket material on here. Well, I cleaned that the best I could. I was using acetone and different stuff. And I decided these come right out. You just pull them and they'll come right out. And I'll work it. And there's seals, one seal in each hole, and you put a screwdriver in there real carefully, pull a screwdriver like upward, and you'll pop the seal right out. Now once I have that off, and I have this cap off for the oil, where you put your oil in at, wow, the hell, God, is that tight. I'll have to get my big thing to get it out. But what I decided to do was remove this paint and clean this all up. So I took it and I laid it over there and I put paint stripper on it. Well, when I was putting this paint stripper on, I got down here along the edge because I want to take anything that had been sprayed on it off to begin with. And here I got some like on this old shellac, and what happened was I went ahead and just put it on all this shellac. I thought it ain't gonna hurt because I'm gonna be scrubbing this, clean it. They got it in here, and I don't want to be digging in there with a screwdriver now. Well, by golly, that paint stripper, it softened that gasket material, and they got it in along here. In here on the other side there was like that was just a piece, but there was some drips in here of it. So I put a little on that. All that stuff come off really easy. I took a brass brush, I don't want to use a steel one, and I went around this groove. There's a groove for that gasket to set in, and it loosened all that up. And that stuff, just a little bit of work with a little brass brush. It's like, see, it's right on here. And you can see this end must have been leaking a little bit, because when you get all this dirt build up, there's a little bit of that oil coming out, and that's what attracts the dirt. And it melted that, or just softened it, where I could just, man, I could just brush it right out good. And I really cleaned it up. Once I had all that done, then I took it over on my drill press. And I have one of these, and I didn't want to use like a wire brush. If I would have used anything, I would have used brass, but I wanted to try this. This is more one of them fiber ones, and that took that all off. I mean, I could clean just about every part of it. A little bit of it I had to do by hand. And what I decided to do was, and why, is I thought, I'm going to paint this top. I didn't want to do the plastic one, but there was some marks on it. It looked like grease or something, and I'm wiping. I found out it's a paint scraped off. So I sanded it, and I'm going to paint it. And what I have to paint it with is, I'll get it and show. The best thing I could come up with, and I think it's going to look terrific. It's going to look a lot better than these. And like I said, I've seen guys work on these, and you always have these marks here. And I'm like, you know, right there it's flaking off, his paint. So he's probably washed it, sprayed it. Hey, good enough, you know. It ain't. You got to clean it clear to the metal. I mean, to do it, put it back, it looks nice. This part, the part down on the engine itself, that was pretty easy to get that stuff off. I could take a little brass brush and it'd come off pretty decent. But there's oil on where the gasket should be back in there, and I think it's because it's an old gasket, it's hard, it's not sealing good, because you know you get new rubber and it's real soft, it'll seal. But I mean, this has taken me extra work. But when you look down there and you see that motor, and I've always brought my eyes right to it, that it looks nasty. You know, just the way I am. So I'll show what I used to paint that with. So I want a paint that's durable, looks good. I don't want to paint it that silver paint, because that always looks cheap. It really cheapens it up. You know, it ain't chrome. Silver paint, maybe a couple little things I'd do, but I never use it for something like this, like a top cover on there. I want something that'll stand a little heat. So I go to Tractor Supply, and I thought, you know, tractor paint on them engines, that has a lot of heat, and it seems to take it. And if you look at new tractors or one that's been redone, you know, refurbished, somebody will make it like new, it always looks like it's a thick coating. It's really nice looking. So I looked and looked and looked, and when you get a can of anything, now I've had this self-etching primer, and it's by Rust-Oleum. The print on the back is so tiny that I'm like, man. So a while back I got a set of glasses to look almost like reading glasses. Man, when you look through them out here, it looks like psychedelic. Wow. But for reading, it's perfect. So I looked and looked in there, and I started reading all the backs of the paint. And so many times tractor paint's yellow, red. They have two different shades of gray, black, definitely black, white. I think they even have white. And I'm thinking, what would be good for on this that would look decent that they have? And they have so many paints in that, and I don't want car paint because it always scratches, this and that. I think I found the paint. I just put it here. Here it is. I got these glasses on, I can't see over there. Okay. So it's Rust-Oleum Farm and Implement. It's heavy duty, weather resistant, rust preventive, Massey Ferguson gray. And that's what I got. This was like about $14 something, almost $15. Read on the back, and I was interested in, you know, about it, and it tells it's tough, and, you know, of course, clean everything, make sure it's completely clean. When you paint, and they tell you about spraying, shake the can good. Okay, drying and out, it's let's see, cooler temperatures may take longer. 1 hour or after 48 hours you can recoat it. Dries to the touch in 2 to 4 hours, and handle in 5 to 9 hours. Fully dries in 24 hours. Well, that ain't bad, and without like I'm doing on this bike, I can get these done, painted, and just leave them set. So I used that primer, then I used this paint. And I looked at a lot of paints, and I had my glasses on in there in the aisleway, and I'm looking and looking. Well, for the plastic, I cleaned it, scrubbed it good. I went over it with 500 wet and sandpaper. I sanded it because they said if it's shiny and smooth, you want to rough it up some. You want that paint to adhere. So I gave one coat of primer, a nice coat, left it dry about 2-3 hours. Then I shot the other paint. And here is the plastic. It's been primed. That's ready to paint. Now what I did with this and the other lid that's aluminum is I used rubber gloves, and I cleaned them, scrubbed them with just dish soap and water, cleaned them the best I could. Then I brought it in here and I put on rubber gloves, and I took acetone and wiped it all down. The other piece, especially the aluminum. And when you wipe it down, I didn't use paper towel. I like them shop rags, them blue shop rags. They're more like cloth. Wiped it down, and there was a lot of grit and stuff come off of it. So I wiped it down really good. Took it outside because it was about 54 today. So it's warm enough to shoot it, and that's the color it'll be, which I think, you know, that will look good. I covered the holes. I don't want paint going down in there. It don't need to. But with the chrome bolts in it and that, it'll look pretty good. It come out nice, shiny, and it's not, I didn't put that heavy a coat on. I just put one nice coat just to cover. You know, if you get it in the light, you can see, you shine it, go across it, and it's wet. That's good enough. I don't keep going back over it, you know, and I didn't do underneath on the edge. It don't need to be. So that's going to dry. We've been getting days, it's in the 50s. At night, it goes down like, what was it last night? 21 degrees. So I can't leave this out here because I keep the place below 50. So I'm going to have to take this and the other one that I'm going to paint into the house and leave them. We have to find where the cats aren't nowhere, you know, close it up someplace and put it in there for tonight so it'll have warmth and it'll get dried. And I ain't messing with them for over 48 hours because I don't want to bump it, get a mark on it, and did all that for nothing. But that's what it is so far. This, I just used that wheel I showed to get all this off, and then I took one of those green, you know, scrubbers that they have for kitchens, and I went in the cracks where that buffing wheel wouldn't go in. I just couldn't get it in there. And it still had marks on it, you know, just like, I don't know what it is, it just don't look right. After I did that, and I thought, I don't want to buff it and see what it looks like, because then you're going to have a smooth surface, and if I want to paint it, I got to go back and rough it up. I said, no, I'm going for the paint. Another thing is, too, because if I had this chrome buffed up, look beautiful, what's going to happen down the road, like 6-8 months, you clean your bike, you wash it, this looks like crap. You're going to have to get in there and chrome clean it all. When it's painted, I can just, you know, shoot it off with water, dry it. You could even put a coat of car wax on it. That ought to look pretty good. But I won't wax that probably till next winter maybe or something. I want that paint to get hard. So here's the before and then the after shot of the valve covers, and I think it'll really look good because it doesn't have that, like on this one up here, it doesn't have all this corrosion right here and blistered up, and you can tell that this was leaking by the dirt on the end of here. Up here there's a lot of dirt, so it was leaking, the old gasket. And I don't think when you put a new gasket in, you have to put anything on it, any sealer. I'm not going to, because the new one's coming, and it should be soft, and it should really seal good. But this, I have cleaned inside and out really good, all ready for the gasket. And it really come out nice. I think it'll match the bike good. It'll be better than it was. And I'm also going to change, or probably change the timing belt. I'm going to look at it and see how it feels. But imagine, but this is hard. This is nasty. So that's where I'm at. Oh, have a good day.